Now, Kendra, what exactly were you thinking? I mean, girl, you know what? Let's get into it. All right, you guys, welcome back to Headlines in Motion. I'm your host, Brittany Monet, where we talk all things factual and in real time. Now, if you are unfamiliar, let me fill you in. So, about a week or two ago, this story came out where a mother out of Tennessee shot a man that she found under her 13-year-old's bed. Now, of course, if you read that headline, you're going to be on the mom's side. But I said, you know what? Let me wait and see what other details come out. Because right off the top, things weren't making too much sense. So I said, let's let this develop a little bit before we just sit down and immediately side with the mom. Because, of course, if a mother comes into her home and there's a grown man under her 13-year-old bed, yeah, things might escalate. But details did emerge. Now, here's the thing, okay? First, we're going to start off with this young man. When I realized that they weren't saying his name, I knew there had to be more details. And oh, was there more details? If I'm not mistaken, his name is Roderick, I believe. He is 20 years old, and he was invited over to Kendra's home. Yes, he was invited over there by the 13-year-old. Now, what's interesting about that is first, the reports were saying, well, Kendra's 13-year-old daughter was telling the police that, she was scared because the mom had always said, basically, if I catch another man in my house, I'm putting you know what I mean? Hole in his head. I don't want to say it because YouTube is real picky about what you say, but right? Okay, cool. So here we are. So the daughter said she was scared. That's why she had this 20-year-old hiding under her bed, although she did sneak him in through the back door. So what then happens, right, is the mother, she arrives to her home. She's banging on the door. She's saying, who's in my house? I guess there was another child there, and that child let, the mom into the home. And when the mom got into the home, of course, she probably went to the 13-year-old's room and found this man under the bed. From there, first reports were saying that it was an argument that ensued. Then reports started saying that a scuffle happened. But what's interesting is he was shot, right, in the back of the head, okay, on her front porch. So he was out the door, out of her house, which means she could have closed the door, and she still proceeded to unalive him. So when I read all of this, my first instinct was, why did she not address her child? And the reason why I say that is because this does not seem like it was a random occurrence. This seems like something that this daughter of hers had done multiple times, where she's arrived home, or she went out and came back, or she caught them in the act, what have you, and men have been in her home. She's also only 13 years old. So if we reference a video that I did before, where I said, it takes a village to raise a child, and we have to not be ashamed to ask for help and to look for, intervention into our situations, into raising these kids. Kendra, babe, that was the moment. If every time, or quite often, you arrive home and there is a grown ass man in your house with your child that she invited over and or snuck into that house, yeah, you need to start with that child, because now, unfortunately, you took your rage out, and what I assume is your rage for not being able to control this child. You took that out on this man. Now, who's to say, right? Because a lot of people may agree with me, may speculate as well. She could have lied about her age. She could have been telling this 20-year-old man that she's 18. She could have been telling him that she's 19. Granted, a lot of people say, well, that's not something to believe. A child's still a child. I totally understand. But y'all, with these filters and these apps, the kids can lie, and that's not to blame the child at all. I'm really removing her from this. My thing is Kendra. Kendra, as an adult, that man is out your house. If you really had a problem, what you should have did was when he got out your house, you should have called the police and reported him. Report him. You understand what I'm saying? I would say every time you bring a man into my home, I'm going to call the police and report him as a rapist. Caught myself as a rapist because she needs to understand the consequences. And then after a while, these men ain't gonna want to talk to her because we're gonna get around that, oh, mama gonna call on you. You know what I mean? She gonna put the law on you. So that to me, Kendra, is a better way to handle this. Or any mom out there that, you have an unruly child, please, let's not immediately go to taking out our frustration on the man in the house. Let's not do that. He clearly was scared if he's under the bed at 20 years old. It's not like he got up and was like, man, I'm out of here. I'm about to, you know what I mean? Come in the way I came right through at the back door. No, he hid under a bed. Now, with that being said, I read an article today where this young man's teacher spoke out about how he was such a sweet and shy and soft-spoken kid. Turns out this 20-year-old during high school, mind you, he's not that far removed, was in special needs classes. Yes, he was in special needs classes. So now we have to really understand that he really had a delay, if you will, right? So for me personally, I feel as though we have to look at parenting, not so much the child's. I'm not blaming the child's because they don't come in creating themselves, right? Like you're raised up, you're taught certain things, you learn certain behaviors. And if your mom is threatening to, do all these violent things, it just sets an idea of what type of parenting style she had going on. So for me, blame is all on Kendra. Kendra, you are, girl, that's crazy. You know what I mean? That man was out your house. Like his back was to you. He was not posing a threat. So this whole idea that they had a scuffle, no. Someone with their back to you is not posing a threat, especially if they're on your front porch, which means they're out of your house. Girl, close the door. But you were so frustrated, clearly, you were so angry that you can't control this child and she continuously disobeys you. You don't want to take your frustration out on her, so you take it out on him. That's not right. That's not right. And in other reports I read towards like the beginning of this story coming out, she had like went to a neighbor and was like, I did what I had to do. Excuse me, girl? No, what you should be worried about is raising up that child because now you are going to be in prison for sure. Yeah. You're going to be in prison. That girl is going to go into foster care. She hasn't learned a thing. She hasn't learned a thing. Her mind is going to be all screwed up. You understand what I'm saying? And now she's going to go into a state system with more poor parenting and just not having the right tools. And that's unfortunate. And that is very unfortunate. All because one, you couldn't control your emotions. Two, you couldn't control your child. And now three, you wanted to make an irrational decision to unalive a person when all of your frustration should one, be with yourself, and then two, be with the child you are responsible for raising. You are responsible for raising that child, nobody else. And then there's a lot of internet chatter about, and I'll just quickly touch on this, right? There's a lot of internet chatter about the 13-year-old being grown and being too fast. I'm not putting that on a child. I'm not. Your environment, your atmosphere, the people around you, all of that raises you. So how dare I blame a child for being a product of their environment? I just could not do that. You are what you see. You are what you interact with. You are what you witness. This didn't just come out of thin air. Clearly there's either something missing, there's something lacking, she's needing something. There like something isn't happening for her, and this is the way that it is manifesting. So no, I'm not going to just quickly throw a label on a child, especially a black girl, and just say, "Oh, well, she's grown and she's fast and she had no business with this man in this house," and da da da. Absolutely not. A child is still a child at the end of the day. Even the crazy ones. A child is still a child, and sometimes we must look at the parents, not really to like this I blame on her because girl, you unalived the person. Yes, I will blame you. You know what I mean? I hereby do find you guilty. You feel what I'm saying? That type of thing. But we also have to understand that it takes a lot to raise a child. And as I keep saying, we all need to be a part of that because unfortunately, if we don't, things like this will happen. And I told you, kids see violence all the time. I don't know why she immediately went to, I'm going to put a hole in their head. I don't know. Like, I don't know why Kendra went there immediately. You know what I don't know. But there has to be other alternatives as opposed to just getting violent with your child or expressing violence with your child. We need to find other solutions because Kendra girl, this ain't it. And I think she believes that people are going to be on her side because he was 20 and you know, he was in her house and under her kid's bed. But if your kid invited him there, and this seems to be a pattern, yeah, I don't know. I don't find any sympathy for that. I just don't. Y'all can let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree, but I just don't find sympathy in that. I find my sympathy honestly goes out to the man, right? Because I don't know why he was there. Now, if it does come out that he did know that she was 13 and yada yada yada, again, that's a whole separate issue that should have been prosecuted and should have went through the proper channels, right? But immediately jumping to the next time a man in my house, I'm gonna put a hole in his head. Yeah, girl, this is something that's been happening. You've been waiting to prove your point to this girl. You've been waiting to prove your point. To me, y'all, what I think, she been in that house thumping with that 13-year-old. I'm not gonna lie to you. She been in that house. They've been thumping, okay? They've been going at it. And she realized that wasn't gonna work. Like putting her hands on that girl was not gonna work. So she had to say, okay, now I'm going to threaten you in a way that is not you, and you gonna see where I'm willing to take it. And that's just what she did. Mama ain't wrapped too tight. You know what I'm saying? That's why the daughter ain't wrapped too tight. Like, hello. And if you had other kids in the house, now them other kids also done lost a parent. You know, it's just all around the board. It's crazy, okay? Kendra, this is wild. You unalived a person with a back to you in the head, okay? And you want us to feel sympathy for you? Absolutely not. And the more that come out about him, if they start getting to him being in special needs and, you know, being a little, slower or delayed or like soft spoken or what have you, you're going to look like the bigger villain, you know? And if the daughter start coming out and talking to you, or we start hearing things from a trial and the daughter start testifying, girl, you're going to look even more crazy, you know? So for me, I don't have sympathy for Kendra. I have sympathy for the daughter because it don't seem like Kendra was wrapped too tight to begin with. If her idea of a solution was to shoot the men that her daughter is inviting into her house, yeah, you probably weren't wrapped too tight to begin with. So unfortunately, these are things that happen when we don't have a village and we don't have somewhere that we can turn to. Like these are the kind of things that happen. And that's why I say it's very important that we always have a village and we're always there for the kids that are in our lives, whether it's like your immediate family, your extended family, what have you. Be involved, talk to them, help them out, get familiar with them because things be going on and you don't really see the ramifications of it, I guess you could say, right? Until it fully explodes, right? Once it bubbles over, then it's like, well, where was auntie? Where was grandma? Where was her cousin? Where was her daddy? You understand what I'm saying? Then that's when everyone starts asking these questions about where people are. But prior to when you knew they was in that house throwing down, beating each other up, nobody said nothing. It was just, oh, that's Kendra and, Kyla. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what they do. And no, that's not normal. So, with that being said, rest in peace to this young man. I'm sorry he lost his life under these crazy circumstances. I don't think it would have mattered who was in that house because Kendra was fully prepared to do whatever she had to do to any man that her daughter invited into that home. She was fully prepared, gun cocked, ready to go. You understand what I'm saying? And it's very, very unfortunate. And I don't think this is something that is going to end well for her as much as they try to spin this story to get her to have sympathy. It's not. And it's also stop blaming Black girls for being too fast and being too grown and being fresh and all this other stuff. Child, it comes from somewhere. It comes from somewhere. And also, if we're going to do it for one race, girl, we got to do it for all. Okay. It just can't be one group. You understand what I'm saying? And with that being said, I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.